We are all familiar with the classic fairy tales, from Cinderella, Snow White to The Little Mermaid. They all concern a young woman in a difficult situation falling for a strapping prince and ultimately being saved in the end, in turn living happily ever after. However, there are many fairy tales out there that don't have a happy ending. Better yet, they don't have any happy elements to speak of. So today on Top 5 Scary Videos, I'm going to be counting down our list of the top 5 scariest fairy tales in literature. Before we begin though, be sure to stick around until the end of the video where I'll be responding to some of your comments. And with that, let's jump in. Coming in at 5, The Three Snake Leaves. One of two Grimm Brothers stories we have on our list, The Three Snake Leaves goes as follows. A powerful king had a daughter who was very beautiful, but also very strange. Although she had many suitors, she refused to marry anyone who would not agree to be buried alive with her if she died first, reasoning, if he loves me with all his heart, of what use will life be to him afterwards? I mean, respect. Meanwhile, a peasant boy is left home to earn money as a soldier. When battle was joined, most of his comrades were slaughtered, but the boy rallied the survivors and led them to victory. For his bravery, the king rewarded him with priceless treasure and made him a knight. Visiting the king's castle, the boy fell in love with the strange and beautiful princess and agreed to her conditions for marriage. The two lived happily for many years until the princess became ill and died. Her grieving husband immediately began looking for a way out of his promise, but the king's guards locked him in the princess's tomb to die. While trapped in the tomb, he saw a snake slither through the cracks in the wall, so he killed it to protect his wife's corpse. Before he could decide to eat it, a second snake appeared with 3 leaves, which it placed on the first snake's wounds, bringing it back to life. Both snakes disappeared, but the leaves remained on the ground, and the boy used them to bring the princess back to life. The two escaped from the vault and boarded a ship back to the castle. However, the leaves had changed the princess cruelly, and she fell in love with the ship's captain. They plotted to throw the boy into the sea so that they could marry. A servant saw the act and rode after the boy, saving him. Somehow the two got back to the kingdom before anyone else and told the king the whole story. When the princess and the captain returned, the king sentenced them to death by sending them out to the sea in a ship pierced full of holes. To be fair, she deserved it. Coming in at 4, Mother Hole. This spooky tale tells of a widow and her 2 daughters. One, her biological daughter, was ugly and lazy, the other, her stepdaughter, was beautiful and kind. For this, the widow despised her stepdaughter, forcing her to sit by a well, spinning cloth until her fingers bled. One day, the stepdaughter accidentally dropped her spindle into the well. Not knowing what else to do, she jumped into the well after it, but instead of finding herself trapped in a well, she awoke in a beautiful meadow full of sunshine. Walking around the strange new land, she came across a baker's oven full of bread, begging to be taken out before it burnt, and an apple tree which begged her to pick the ripest apples. Finally, the girl arrived at the house of Mother Hole, an old, ugly lady who asked her to clean her cottage. The girl did everything Mother Hole asked and was rewarded by being covered from head to toe in gold, given her spindle back, and returned to the human world. Impressed by her new wealth, the stepmother decided to send her own daughter down the well also. However, the lazy daughter refused to take the bread out of the oven or shake the tree. Her work for Mother Hole was so lazy she was asked to leave. Instead of gold, she was coated from head to toe in burning pitch, which stuck to her for the rest of her life. Just don't be lazy, I guess. Coming in at number 3, Fitcher's Bird. Fitcher's Bird goes as follows. Once upon a time, a strange beggar spent his days kidnapping young women. Visiting the home of 3 sisters, he persuaded the oldest to let him inside. As soon as the beggar touched her, she was forced to jump into his pack. He then carried her away to his golden house, where he promised to give her everything she desired if she would stay and become his wife. He then announced that he had to leave for a short time, giving her an egg to keep safe and forbidding her from entering one particular room on pain of death. After he left, curiosity of course overcame the woman, and she entered the forbidden room. She found a basin filled with blood and the mutilated remains of dead girls. A large axe and a chopping block lay conveniently nearby. Out of fear, the woman dropped the egg, which then became covered in blood and could not be cleaned, no matter how hard she tried. When the beggar returned and saw the bloody egg, he dragged her into the forbidden room and chopped her up. He then returned to the original home and took another sister, who suffered the same fate. Finally, he returned for the youngest, however this time the beggar met his match. Suspicious, the sister hid the egg before entering the room. Discovering her dead sisters, she put the pieces together, resurrecting them. When the beggar returned, he announced that she had passed the test and would be his true bride. As a wedding present, the girl asked him to take a basket of gold to her father, but secretly hid her 2 sisters inside the basket instead. She then placed a skull in the window so it would seem like she was watching him, and covered herself in honey and feathers in order to hide in the trees disguised as a bird. When the beggar returned and his friends arrived for the wedding. The girls' brothers arrived, locked them in the home, and burned them all alive inside. Coming in at 2, the singing bone. Hailing from the Grimm storybook, the singing bone goes as follows. A giant boar terrorized a poor kingdom, ruining crops and tearing peasants apart. In desperation, the king offered his only daughter to whoever killed the beast. 2 brothers volunteered, one out of pride and the other out of kindness. To improve their chances of finding the pig, they split up and entered the forest from opposite sides. In the forest, the younger brother encountered a dwarf who sensed the boy's good heart and gave him an enchanted spear capable of killing the boar. The boy then came across the boar and the enchanted spear split the beast's heart in 2. Walking to the castle with the beast on his back, the boy found his brother drinking in a tavern. Seeing that his brother had won the challenge, the older brother offered him some wine to celebrate his victory. Once his sibling had become good and drunk, the older brother murdered him and buried him under a bridge before taking the boar to the king and claiming the princess. He claimed that his brother had been torn to pieces by the boar. The brother and his new wife lived happily for many years. Then a wandering shepherd came across a weathered bone, which he decided to fashion into a mouthpiece for his horn. Of course, the bone belonged to the murdered brother, and when the shepherd blew into it, the horn began singing a terrible song of murder. The shepherd then took the instrument to the king, who ordered the earth beneath the bridge to be dug up, discovering the body of the younger brother. As a punishment, the older brother was sewn into a sack and thrown into the sea to drown. And finally, coming in at number 1, the 3 army surgeons. This creepy tale goes as follows. Once there were 3 proud army surgeons who decided they were the best in the world, and in turn began traveling around to boast of that fact. They eventually came to an inn in the middle of a secluded forest where the innkeeper, skeptical, asked them to prove their talents. To his surprise, they agreed. The first surgeon hacked off his own hand and pledged to reattach it in the morning. The second did the same thing with his heart, and the third ripped out his own eyes. The surgeons were confident because they secretly had a magic lotion that reattached severed body parts. The impressed innkeeper gave the hand, heart and eyes to a serving girl, ordering her to watch over them until morning. However, that night the serving girl's secret soldier lover visited, and the two quickly became distracted, allowing a cat to sneak in and eat the severed body parts. When the girl discovered the missing pieces, her soldier promised to replace them, beginning by cutting the hand off a recently hanged thief in town square. He then sliced the heart out of a slaughtered pig, and finally he caught up with the cat and ripped out his eyes. The next day, the surgeons magically reattached their body parts. However, when they continued on their journey, the first surgeon found himself constantly trying to steal money from strangers, and the second surgeon was unable to fight the urge to roll around in the mud. At night, the third couldn't sleep and could see mice running across the dark floor. Realizing something was wrong, the surgeons returned to the inn and demanded their own body parts back. However, the girl had already run away with her soldier and no one else knew what had happened to them. Well, there we have it. Do you guys agree with that list? Were there any scary fairy tales that we missed? Leave us all your thoughts and feelings in the comments down below, and perhaps we can do a part 2. Before I go though, I just want to respond to a few comments from one of our last videos. Top 5 most terrifying creatures from British folklore. Adipo said, "It's the straightest I've ever been. What a mood, Lucy." Ain't that the truth? It was. I was just preaching facts. DC Carter said, "Lucy, I hope your day is going good." It's going as good as could be expected. I'm drinking tonight. Lord Inquisitor Ignis said, "Wait, Lucy is English as well? That very much explains the paleness." Where have you been? I've been English for a long time. And yes, it's my English blood and my Scottish blood. Sad times. And on that note, if you haven't already, be sure to give this video a big thumbs up, subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss another scary vid. And until next time, see you later. Coming in at 4, Mother Hole or Holly?
Another hole, eh?
I think it's a hole. Mother Hole. I'm gonna say hole. Mother Hole. Holy, holy, holy. These are dark. These are sad. Sad. Whew. Lord. Lord. Bleak as What the was that?
Statue.
Jesus.
Hack.